was minding my own business on August 9th. Then boom! One of my old videos got hit for making fun of the Borderlands trailer. I kind of paid it no mind. Then I was hit again on the 12th for the same video. I had every intention of ignoring Borderlands since it seemed like a film that was so bad it wasn't even worth pirating, let alone paying attention to. There was a reason why the film debuted with a 0 score from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, which I've never seen before in my entire life. And the only reason why it didn't get lower than a 0 is because there's no way to give a film negative points as of yet, but I think Rotten Tomatoes should look into it. So, out of pure spite, I decided to review this soulless, poorly planned abortion of a film. I checked the local big theaters in my area. They were all empty since the film launched. I'm not even kidding. So, I went to go watch Borderlands, and even filmed myself alone in the screening, because I felt like a millionaire. I was shopping on Temu.
People are stoked for this film. Oh man, I can't wait.
After wasting an hour watching this film, I've come to the conclusion that this is your bog standard movie video game adaptation where it's based loosely on a successful intellectual property and came out 5 to 10 years too late. Borderlands, the movie, is a mixture of Borderlands 1, 2, and maybe 3. Honestly, this film is all over the place. The original screenplay writer, after seeing the revisions that were made to his work, decided he did not want his name attached to it. So they removed his name from the credits and gave him some other name like, I don't know, Handsome Butt Juice. Or maybe Butt Stallion, that would have been funny. Claptrap alone being voiced by Jack Black instead of David Eddings or Jim Foronda was proof enough that this would be absolute trash.
That's right, Claptrap. And just a small plug, I had to get into incredible shape for this role with my nude scene late in the second act.
The film wanted to throw in as many celebrities that it could afford as possible, praying to God that this would get more butts and seats, and I quote. Tiny Tina is the MacGuffin of the movie. Instead of her surviving her parents' torture and subsequent death, where she escaped with a grenade, I'm paraphrasing and keeping it short, and the events drove Tiny Tina insane, she is now a clone of the Iridians. I probably got the name wrong, but I don't care. And she was created by the owner of one of the mega corporations. Conveniently, the villain was also named Atlas. And the whole plan was to use her to open the vault of Pandora. This choice of character origin change doesn't explain why Tiny Tina loves explosives. In fact, many of the characters had their origins changed. So once again, your typical Hollywood adaptation where nothing makes sense. So you may as well look at it as an alternate universe. Did I mention that the girl who plays Tiny Tina is the annoying Latin girl from the Barbie movie? Yeah, this kid's movie choices are terrible. But it's not like she's a great actress, so what does it matter?
You represent everything wrong with our culture.
Sexualized capitalism.
Tiny Tina being the daughter of Atlas is obviously lifted from the character type of Handsome Jack and his daughter being Angel. There's also the orbital laser, once again the weapon of Handsome Jack that Atlas uses in the film. This is a really bad reimagining of a great villain and storyline, just completely condensed and homogenized. Kurg is in the film, and his origin story is completely skipped. He could have been the perfect candidate to be the one to do the voiceovers for all the scenarios. You know, Kurg's sane personality doing the voiceovers, because nobody hears Kurg's sane personality. You just hear the crazy version of Kurg. And that would have been funny and an inside joke, but whatever. Instead, they had Lilith do the narrations for what's going on like 3 times and then never again. Speaking of Lilith, she is now an old woman. She's also an Iridian, which she is the key to opening the vault. And opening the vault turns her to a siren. If you know the story of Borderlands, you probably won't enjoy this film. Now, long story short, she is the true daughter of the Iridians. There was a flashback to her childhood where her mother wasn't just a strong, independent, single mother, but she was also a brilliant scientist. In the video game, she was raised by her father, who then died, and then later on, she got the siren powers. We're just moving on. That was in the comic book, though. Whatever. And let's be real here. Cate Blanchett was here to pick up a check, and it was painfully obvious from watching her deliver her lines in this movie. It was 100 minutes of wasted life. How Eli Roth thought geriatric action scenes with Cate Blanchett was what the movie needed to push it forward was just an absolute masterstroke of being completely and utterly disconnected from the cultural zeitgeist and reality. Did he not see the Dial of Destiny or Time with Harrison Ford's old ass pretending to still be an action man? It's nothing short of pathetic. There's a reason why black women easily beat up old people in old folks' homes. They can't defend themselves because their bones are made of paper mache.
Kevin Hart plays Roland. This is the perfect casting for an SNL skit, if SNL was still funny, or a cosplaying live stream with Kai. Kevin Hart did an interview where he explains to you how he doesn't know what the hell his character is about.
In it, because Roland is a guy who has a narrative attached to an agenda of good, right? And his agenda of good comes from once upon a time being a part of something that wasn't so good, that he felt.
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
Feels great.
There won't be a sequel to this film, so you don't have to worry about watching Kevin Hart, and I was about to call her Kathy Bates. I really don't remember her name. Cate Blanchett make out because, as you know, in Borderlands, Roland and Lilith hook up, but whatever, that's a different... Who cares?
It don't matter. None of this matters.
Jamie Lee Curtis is another miscasting of Tannis. I'll give her this. She might have been the only person in this whole film who had some semblance of an idea of what her character's personality is, because Tannis has autism and she sucks at human interactions, to keep it short. Atlas is the big villain instead of Handsome Jack, so I call him Blandsome Jackass.
That's as far as I'm going with that guy. He really didn't matter.
The movie starts off with a bad fight scene and short jokes for Kevin Hart. Big funny. The movie doesn't follow the lore of the video games, so the whole opening segment doesn't make any sense to any viewer, whether you're new to it or you're a fan of Borderlands, because it kind of just has this vibe like you're supposed to know what's going on off the rip. Then we get the Cate Blanchett old girl boss energy. There are more filters on her face than a Brita water pitcher.
Basically, her fight scene was with a bunch of men half her age and 2 to 3 times her size, and she takes them out so incredibly easy and fast that it was just absolutely ridiculous. She was large and in charge the whole time. Man, oh man, it was great. You could tell by the sound of my voice how much I enjoyed it.
Pandora looks like San Francisco. What a treat. The actors have absolutely no chemistry together, and it felt like I was watching a low-budget streaming service where everybody was there to just make a little bit of money and then walk off. This movie was the longest hour and 40 minutes of my life. If you told me I was watching it for 3 hours, I would have believed you because it just seemed so painstakingly long. But it really wasn't. Borderlands is a nonsensical waste of film with pacing issues that can be best described as attention deficit disorder meets the popular Midwestern known as speed.
Water! I can only imagine how much footage they left on the cutting room floor, because nothing made sense. It was just so discombobulated.
Needless to say that the writing was predictable. It had very Birds of Prey energy, while attempting to mimic the Guardians of the Galaxy, but not having 1/10 of the charm, witticism, or chemistry of that cast working together.
You know, it's so rare that you have that experience like a Guardians of the Galaxy or Empire Strikes Back or a RoboCop. You go, wow, that was so good.
Every attractive female character is played by a woman past her prime by a minimum of 20 years, which was the oddest choice one could make for such a film, considering how much Rule 34 there is for a lot of the female Borderland characters. Mad Moxie was played by Gina Gershon, who would have been perfect for this role if it was 1994 and not 2024.
You know, you have one badass, strong, tough, cool woman after the other. You know, all the way down to Ariana. I mean, Jamie Lee, Kate. Who's cooler than them?
You know, me.
I guess they really had to stop the male gaze at all cost. It's gilf energy all day and all night. There's one point where Cate Blanchett yells at Jamie Lee Curtis about Curtis leaving her with bandits when she was a child, and all I could think was like,
both of these women are incredibly old. Like, who's the younger one of the two? What is this?
I'm supposed to be getting youth and energy from Cate Blanchett, and it really doesn't have that vibe. It more or less felt like the Golden Girls in fucking space. Later on, we find that Tiny Tina isn't the special one, and that Lilith was the key the whole time. But remember, Tiny Tina is still special, but just in a different way. It was very touching and moving. I couldn't wait to peel myself out of my seat and piss ferociously on the side of the movie theater. I'll say that Borderlands is a very female-focused film where all the male characters have absolutely no agency. Even the villain felt like some sort of background character that was never really a threat in any real way at any point in time. I think Handsome Jack would have been the villain that this film needed to push it forward. But to flush out a character like Handsome Jack, this movie would have to be a trilogy, and there was no way in hell this wasn't going to be a one and done. The ending was very open-ended, just in case someone at the studio lost their mind and was crazy enough to greenlight a sequel, which will not happen. This film's really bad. I've never heard of Eli Roth till now, but he's the perfect example of failing upwards, because this film should be enough to kill his career, but it looks like his entire career is basically releasing movies that bomb. And this is another feather in his cap. I really don't know what to say about this. One news publication had an opinion piece called Borderlands isn't the worst movie of the year, despite what the internet wants you to think. And I'm going to say that this is probably one of the worst films I've ever seen. It might be one of the worst films ever made, actually. And the fact that it only made $8 million when they were praying to God they do $10 million in a weekend says a lot. This isn't going to make its money back. This is a complete and utter loss.